For the 24th time in NBA history, the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers will meet in the NBA playoffs. What should we look for before these two teams tip off in their first round matchup on Sunday afternoon? This is Bleav in Celtics, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Zach LeBlanc. So, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers at home on Wednesday night, winning their playing game against the Orlando Magic off a 31-point night for Tyrese Maxey, really led the way for them. And then outside of him, some scoring everywhere else. VJ Edgecombe had poured in 19, Paul George at 16. But Maxey, of course, as he's been all year, really the driving factor for this team. So that officially means that the Boston Celtics and the Sixers will match up again. Just always, I think I would have, like I said last time, I would have preferred this matchup a little bit more to Orlando for a couple of reasons. Because you just can't beat beating the Philadelphia 76ers, especially considering, the Celtics, we'll talk about it in my prediction, but this one should be a quick series. And ultimately, the big question looming for the Sixers and why I wanted this matchup was because the big question is Joel Embiid. He's missed the last couple of weeks with an appendectomy. He did, however, make his return to the Sixers bench for this game, for the playing game. So I think definitely a reassuring sign there. But ultimately, he's still out indefinitely. They don't know if he's going to be back. There's a chance that he doesn't even suit up at all this series. Just so much uncertainty surrounding his availability. So the Sixers will still have until Sunday afternoon to get him ready, but it looks more and more unlikely that he's going to play, whether it be in any of these first two games and maybe at all of this series. So interesting there. Of course, that's why I wanted this matchup. And on top of that, I think the Celtics have a chance to dominate a little bit with how the Sixers are so guard-oriented that I think the Celtics wings can really just dominate. The Tatum and Brown against that Oubre and Paul George matchup, I think, is really where the Celtics are going to excel in this matchup. Now, interesting regular season, of course, between these two teams. They played 3 times in the first month of the season alone. Of course, that season opener, which Peyton Pritchard and the Celtics had a chance to win at the buzzer in a pretty tight-knit game, and Embiid did play in that one, but that was the game where, Tyrese Maxey had 40, VJ Edgecombe at 34. Joel Embiid really didn't do much in that game, and the Celtics had a chance to win at the end. Halloween, of course, Celtics fended off then a 20-point comeback by the Sixers, and Embiid, again, another shot at the buzzer for a chance to win between these teams. Come down to the buzzer again, Embiid missing a buzzer beater 3 to win the game. So the series tied 1-1 then. And then a couple weeks later, Celtics back in Philly again. No Joel Embiid this time. And again, the game comes down to the buzzer. A chance to win on a deep Derek White 3. I remember that was a botched play the Celtics had, and White just had to throw up a 3. And Keita had a shot at a putback, but unfortunately, the Sixers would hold on to win that game. And now finally, after those 3 meetings early in the season, it wasn't again until March. And this was, of course, the Nemish Keita legacy game, dominating the Sixers with a career high. 27 points, 17 rebounds, all-around effort for him. That was game 2. He just got really deep in his bag there for Keita. Up and under, scoop layups, doing a little bit of everything and ones. Tremendous game for him. And, of course, the big thing is no Jason Tatum in any of these matchups for the Celtics. So, of course, 2-2 in the regular season, but no Tatum. And not only that, the first 3, October and November were a completely different version of the Celtics team right now, of course. So, big, a stark difference between these two teams from those first 3 matchups to now. Where can the Celtics take advantage of this matchup? Well, I think one of the big things the Celtics have done all year long is the paint, and without Joel Embiid, this is a huge opportunity for the Celtics to really come in and continue to dominate the paint. Celtics all year long have been the best at defending the paint in the NBA, giving up those outside shots, controlling who takes the threes. Celtics, like I said, first in the NBA in points allowed in the paint, 40.1 just points allowed. Meanwhile, Philly scores 50.2 points in the paint, which only puts them in the middle of the pack. But on top of that, their 3-point shooting ranking is just below league average. They're in the bottom third of the league, 12.3 attempts per game, knocking down 12.3 made, and then 35% from beyond the arc. And the Celtics, like I said, they want to control who makes the threes. So without a guy like Joel Embiid, the Celtics can find ways to not only dominate the interior of the paint, whether it's on both offense and defense, but also now keying to the Sixers shooters. So it's Paul George, Oubre, who had a fantastic playing game, Tyrese Maxey, Um, and forcing some of these other guys to shoot, whether it's, Dominic Barlow, even a guy like Quentin Grimes, who's having a down year from three, just 33.4%. Drummond's even shot some threes in there. I'm sure the Celtics will live with some of those guys taking those shots. And essentially, the Sixers need everyone to play to their ceiling if Joel Embiid is out. Tyrese Maxey himself has the capability, to win a game purely off his scoring. But how good of a complementary star can Paul George be? Of course, I think one of the better things for the Sixers this year is actually him being suspended because he's come into the playoffs looking healthy, looking the best that he's looked in a minute. But of course, it's the playoffs. How can Paul George be that complimentary guy? Like I said, the playing game, he had about 16 points. He was 6 for 16 from the field. They're going to need a little bit more out of him. He's going to have to average 20 in this series, especially if they want to contend, of course, with the Celtics front court of Tatum and Brown. And meanwhile, VJ Edgecombe, I talked about a little bit earlier, he was tremendous in that season opener for Philly against the Celtics. 34 points, most in a debut since Wilt. But how will he fare in this matchup? Of course, now it's the playoffs. Celtics can take advantage of some of that size in that Sixers backcourt. And meanwhile, the Sixers have no real, defensive stoppers, like to guard Tatum and Brown specifically. Like they have some solid defenders, of course, like guys like Oubre, Quentin Grimes are lengthy, athletic defenders. But Paul George is, he's not Paul George anymore. So how does he fare in this matchup? How do the Sixers contain Tatum and Brown? Tatum and Brown should excel in this series. They should, of course, as always, be the reason that the Celtics win. But the Celtics had the two best players in this series. And so even if Joel Embiid was in, this would still be a quick series. But now the Celtics, without having to worry about Joel Embiid, they should make quick affair of this team. Just looking at, of course, the schedule for this series, game one, of course, on that Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, 1 o'clock tip-off. Celtics still at home. Game 2 for Tuesday, 7 p.m. on Peacock. And then game 3 and 4 will be in Philadelphia, both 7 p.m. starts, Friday and Sunday. So a little bit of time in between, Sunday and Tuesday, that game 1 and 2. 2 days of rest, same thing, Tuesday to Friday, another couple of days of rest there for the Celtics. And then, of course, if needed, game 5, 6, and 7, all yet to be scheduled time. But it will be, that following Tuesday, the Thursday, and then the Saturday for game 7. What should the Celtics be concerned for? I think for me, the only real thing, and this isn't even just for this series particularly, but how do the Celtics adjust at the center position? Obviously, Vooch, last couple games of the regular season, finally started to see a little bit momentum. I think once that second half of the Knicks game happened, he started to get into a little bit of rhythm there. But the big question is, Luka Garza has deserved some minutes. How can they maybe integrate him, get some of his hustle, get some of his energy, especially against a team like the Sixers? Andre Drummond, one of the best rebounders in the league, second in the league in just rebounds played per minute, and active players to LeBron. So he is crazy when it comes to rebounding. The Celtics combat some of that with getting Garza involved in the glass. And meanwhile, how can they incorporate all these centers? That's a big thing. Are they really just going to play Cade and Vooch? That's what it seems like. But at the same time, I think Garza deserves to get some spot minutes here and there because he's played well. He deserves it, especially after that final game of the regular season. And they can utilize him well. He's a stretch big, obviously the same way Vooch is, but he has some of those different skills where I think he can make such a big impact on the glass that he can get, a huge offensive rebound, make a big play off the glass. So that's some of the things that I want to see from him. The other thing I'm looking is how did the Celtics, of course, come out in that 2023 series. The Celtics dropped that game 1 to Philadelphia. Joel Embiid was inactive for that game, and they let the Sixers hang around. James Harden dropped 45, a game-winning 3 that set back over Al Horford. And this was, of course, a playoff run where the Celtics had multiple letdowns at home. They won the championship the next year. Same story last year. Celtics, of course, a couple letdowns in that second round against the Knicks at home. And now they've, learned from that experience. So I think the Celtics will be ready. But obviously, of course, you always have to worry about a little bit. Do the Celtics, are they going to play down their competition? I'm not necessarily as worried about that as I was with that 2023 team. This team is a little bit more poised. They're more ready. Of course, they have that championship. But you also always have to think about that. I think the Celtics will be ready, but they're, like I said, always that question. My series prediction: the Boston Celtics will take care of business pretty quick in this one. They'll beat the Philadelphia 76ers 4-0. The only way I see Philly winning a game is Tyrese Maxey having a scoring explosion and the Celtics getting cold on offense. Otherwise, I think the Celtics are more concerned with their matchup against the Knicks, and that's why I think it's important for the Celtics to take care of business, get your rest, especially considering the Knicks. They got a bad draw in the first round, having to play Atlanta, courtesy of us beating Orlando. So get yourself some extra time, some extra rest, extra opportunity to strategize, prepare for that series because you know the Knicks are going to be ready for you. You have to be ready for them this time around. I'm excited for it. Of course, Celtics starting on Sunday. I'll be back Monday night with a guest on the show, Mac Baltas of USA Today and Sporting News. Break down game one of the playoffs for the Celtics. Talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs as a whole. Excited for it. Like I said, be back Monday night. And not only that, we'll be back Wednesday to talk a little bit more about that game too. Everything that you need to know about the Celtics, of course, is here on Bleav in Celtics, presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Zach LeBlanc. Thanks for listening.